So I was 42 when I was newly single. I definitely wanted to get married. As a matter of fact, I was so prepared to get married that my mother, my sister, my ex all said, "Why don't you go to a therapist and find out why you want to get married so fast?" And I did. I went to two different therapists because everybody wanted me to, and both of them said, "Go find her, bring her back to us," because it made sense. I learned when, can I go off on tangent?
Please.
When Hannah was born, there was something I learned. When she was in the NICU, they said she wouldn't be coming home. And then we realized she would be coming home. I learned that you mourn. There are things you mourn over in life, not just death, although a lot of people do call this a pregnancy loss. And in my mind, I learned you put an end game on it. So I mourned the loss of the daughter that I always wanted for about a month. And then I said, well, screw this. I mean, I have Pearlski, and that's it. And I stopped mourning, and I started being the father I had to be. And the divorce, we lived together through it. It was very amicable. She wanted it, not me. And then at some point, fairly early on, when it was obvious and it was happening, I said, okay. And then I moved on. And so, and I was 42, and I dated women from 24 years old to older than me. 24-year-old asked me out. She was a Marilyn Monroe impersonator, so that was definitely, and yes, she was female. Dated her for a little bit. It was tough. Women didn't know how to deal with it. I then met I met Elise, I can say her first name. And it was actually the night before Father's Day online. And at that point on the dating website she was using, she used her last token to contact me. I felt honored. And we went on a couple of dates. She had two typical children. She was your typical suburban mom. And she stayed over one Friday night and had known about Pearlski but not met her. And that we got up Saturday morning, and I went into the guest room to wake her up. And I said, I'm going to go get Pearlski ready. I said, whatever you want to do. And I brought her, Pearlski, into the living room, put her down on a play mat. So this was 14, so she was 6, maybe 7 years old. So she was on her mat, sort of waking up, playing a little bit. I was in the kitchen getting her medicines ready. And I came out, and Elise was on the floor playing with her. Yeah, I should have married her, but that went other ways. We stayed together 5, 6 years for a while. We're still friends. So women reacted various ways. I dated you're not supposed to say head nurse anymore, the chief nurse?
Charge nurse.
The nurse in charge of the residential facility where my son was. Because she had left there and moved local. And she actually is the only woman to this point who has lived with me for a little while. And if you read my blog, her nickname happens to be Cerberus on the blog, but we won't mention anything why. And she actually had nothing to do with Pearlski, which is strange because she ran nursing for a severely disabled community. But nothing. So it runs the gamut, and it's tough. Lately, most of the women in my life have some connection with the disabled. For a while, I dated a woman who was director of special education. And dating other women who have disabled children. And so it's difficult, though. It's difficult. Do you bring it up? Do you put it in your dating profile? Who wants to be, how do you get babysitters and nannies? Because you have a small group of specially trained caretakers. They're not going to be giving up all their Saturday nights, their Friday nights. How do you get out? How do you sleep with a monitor that's fairly loud because night times are the scary times? How do you explain that? How do you explain priorities? So typically, the women have children. I've always wanted more children, either hers, ours, mine, whatever. At this point, I'm 55 years old. So I have my ideas where I'm going from here, and there's women in my life who I'll talk about another time. But it's very, very difficult. And all of them have different prejudices. Is it okay for me to bathe my daughter? Every woman I've met has somewhat different views on it and other questions. It's tough. I've dated a couple of women with disabled children, severely disabled children. And, how much the children themselves interact is iffy. Okay, they're aware of each other. But the interactions are little. Each one has their own routines and their own medicines and their own schedule and their own. And it takes work to meld the two together. My house is fully accessible, so the logistics are easier. The question comes up, if I were to marry a woman with a disabled child and they come into the house, do I have twice as much work, twice as many problems, or do I have half as many problems? And it depends. I have no doubt that I could manage 2 disabled kids for a weekend or, as needed. But it also I'll make darn sure that there's no doubt that I can go out and go shopping and have her manage both kids. On the other hand, would I like to find myself a 24-year-old who doesn't have any kids and is looking forward to life and my inheritance? Sure. That wouldn't work. That wouldn't happen. It's not really what I want. Nothing's worked out in life as I had hoped it would, and that happens for most people. I'm sure at this point I'll end up with a woman who'll have, 1 or 2 typical kids, maybe a disabled kid. I'm close with somebody who you've filmed before who has a disabled kid, and something might happen there. I've been recently dating a woman with 2 typical kids who happen to accept Pearl Ski fully, but it's a whole different world. It might be easier to meld Pearl Ski and another disabled child than with typical childs. How does the family go to Disney? Now, yes, you can take a disabled kid to Disney, but taking Hannah or Joe or Chris or any of these other kids on an airplane, and even an experience at Disney, is different. Okay, taking Pearl Ski to the beach. It's tough to push a wheelchair in sand. So it's difficult. So the social life is difficult. I have wonderful support. I have women friends. I have a whole harem or clan, and people make fun of it because I have a lot of friends and they happen to be women and they understand the caretaking, but most of them don't want to take it on. I don't have any male friends. I have to be careful because Ben might see this. Hey, Ben. There's a couple in their late 20s. I have a very interesting logistical relationship with them. I dated his mother when I was in high school. And I'm very close with that couple, and they have 1.5, maybe by the time this comes out, 2 typical children. So it's sort of like a son and daughter, and he'll be the best man at my wedding, and they're there for me, I'm there for him. But male friends, 1 or 2 acquaintances, but that's just been something most of my life. My business partner for the last 15 years doesn't have a clue about my personal lifestyle, doesn't get it, doesn't understand. Pearlski had an incident last year which was just very difficult emotionally to deal with, and he didn't get it even though he has 3 typical daughters. Okay, so don't really have close male friends, never really have. Acquaintances, yeah, but again, my lifestyle, how many guys do you know that are a single father, disabled kid? And that defines me. I mean, when I go to business conferences, when I was teaching at the university, yeah, I get along great with the guys and go out and have a drink, but I can't sit down and watch a football game without having to get up 5 times to give her medicine and to change her. So there's not much in common.
Yeah, I think it's not easy to have relationships with people who have heavy burdens.
Right. And people, then you get into the whole thing, they're afraid to tell me about their kids, which that really bugs me. And I want to laugh at them. Well, she's not coming home pregnant, not going to be found smoking dope. Okay, so you can tell me, whatever. I have some pluses and you have some pluses. You'll find this, and you read the other blogs of parents with severely disabled kids. Their marriages are all crap, just about every single one of them. Or their friends, bail out, or they don't invite you over. It's very difficult. People don't get it. So my outspokenness, my ability, maybe even to talk a little bit out of a distance. I mean, the love shows there, but it does come across different than maternal. I've always wondered, as an aside, how I come across on the blog. I don't know. I've been singing.
You get some response on that.
Oh,
some people do call you out on, I don't know, they think that you're like an asshole or something.
Yeah, no, but some people do think it's interesting. The people that think I'm an asshole are interesting, because then they usually get attacked by other people because they've only read small parts of it. I've always wondered why single dad, because I've been single dad for 6-7 years on the blog. Why doesn't everyone think that I'm gay? Because I don't talk about my personal life at all. So I've always wondered that. I don't care. I have gay friends. I have no issue with it. But and I'm told sort of quite the opposite. So I don't know how I'm really perceived. I've had invitations and people wanting to meet me, and actually I've met some women who I've fallen in love with from the blog. But I think part of it is because I am a father. I do talk more plain. Maybe it's also just the way I am. And a big part, the anonymity. I know some of the other bloggers have said they wish their blog was anonymous. I just put it out there because it got to the point where I couldn't keep it inside anymore.
Do you still feel that there's value in it being anonymous?
Minorly. I'm not terribly worried if the anonymity disappears. But there is value. Somewhat with friends and family, people I don't really want knowing about it. The issue with Pearlsky at school. Okay. So yeah, the idea that it's anonymous is good. When people write to me, private message me through the blog, I give more information. I talk more about who I am. So I'm not really terribly afraid of it, but it does give me a bit of a shield and let me talk a little more openly. I won't go crazy if something happens against it. I've become a special ed advocate, and I'm working on building up that business. I've done a couple of jobs with that and taken some courses. It's not licensed, but people do know me. The school district likes me and recommends me. Those people don't know about the blog though, but I do tell them about my daughter. Very few people know about the blog, but I'm working on being an advocate, working on helping families. What do you do? And I'm actually aiming more towards young families when they first find out. Okay, because if you start everything off then, everybody learning how to advocate for themselves, what to expect, it's better than jumping in. I work with 2 or 3 other people I've brought into a team where I'll do most of the advocacy for more of the severely disabled, because it is different. I don't want to hear that your kid, on the standardized testing, got 3% deviation down. That goes to some other members of the team who are better at that. But if your kid needs physical therapy, occupational therapy, is not getting the supports, needed, and I have the added advantage of saying how to deal with the state, deal with the other services available. There was nobody when I started. Pearlsky School District never had disabled, and they used to send them out. So every year, every time we went from elementary school to middle school to high school, she was the first. So it was tough. But I always made sure to at least try to be right. If I was going to fight for something, I wanted to know, is she legally allowed to have it? Do the doctors agree? And if I really thought I was right, I got it. And most of my emails to the school district always ended with, tell me where I'm wrong. So that's how I got their respect. Got a letter, an email on the blog maybe 2 years ago, a professor from the Midwest. And he said, we just found out our child will be severely disabled. And I just found your blog, any advice? And I put it out as a post. And, the advice, well, you can't really prepare, good luck, or read up on the disease if you know. And then one of my fellow fathers who blogs, he's not single, he's real raw, Ken, and great guy. And I read between the lines, and Ken wrote, run like hell, and he didn't use those words. I wanted to write, if it's not too late and it's politically acceptable, don't go there. Stop it. Run like hell. So when given a choice, I firmly believe, unless you really want your life to be much more difficult and a different path than you probably want, and if you believe in such things, run like hell, not literally, figuratively. Okay, it makes for a very difficult, different life. Now, if you are going to have a child, your child is disabled, or you find out after they're born, then learn to advocate. Actually, my new profession recently is a special education advocate, and the school district actually encouraged me to be an advocate, which means I'm working against them in some ways. So, our society does in some ways make it difficult. I happen to live in a state that makes it much easier. I do get the benefits and support I need from the government, so that does exist. But your life becomes something else. Your marriage will fall apart because you're not going to parent equally is a big problem. One will be more involved, one less involved. There'll be resentments. There are problems with typical children. It's difficult raising one, let alone two severely disabled kids. If you don't have a diagnosis, that will haunt you for the rest of your life. So I agree that if given a choice early on, my recommendation is, run like hell, don't take it on. I don't know why anyone would adopt special need children. Now, that they do is wonderful, because we have special needs children who need to be adopted. Just do it with your eyes open. Advocacy, once they're part of your family, make sure their rights are protected. They have what they need, and you have to fight for that. That takes time, it takes effort, it takes energy that will take away from the life you expected you would have. Would I change things? Yeah. I mean, the question came up, if we went for a third child, what would we do? And I said to the pediatrician, how could I abort Pearlsky? And she said, it wouldn't be Pearlsky, it would be a different child who's not yet, if you so believe, who's not yet a formed person. So you wouldn't be aborting Pearlsky. That issue never came up. Now it would, because we can test for this disability, but I'm not having another baby with their mother. So, I have fairly strong beliefs, but that's something that a family decides. Do they want to deal with it? Can they deal with it? What are their choices? My blog, I've gotten a fair amount of emails saying, thank you, you talk about things nobody else does. I thought I was the only one. Okay? You know, we have thoughts about, just ending it. Okay? You know, you read about suicide, filicide, and taking a child with you, and you read about it, and we have thoughts about that, or what would we do, but we don't talk about it, we're not allowed to talk about it. So as a blogger, that's what I just speak my mind. But once they were born, I advocate for them. I want them to have. I've always said I want Pearlsky's quality of life from her point of view to be as good as it can be.
Do you take it personally that somebody would abort a fetus that they know has the same condition as your child? Do you see that as some kind of indictment on the children that you have?
It was just very recently added to a screening panel, what my children have. And that's a whole side story. It turns out it was a childhood friend of mine. I added it to the panel coincidentally. So it can be screened for. If you believe that terminating pregnancy is okay for you, I don't take a birth. Absolutely terminate. Bringing a child into the world like Pearlsky can be rewarding, can be wonderful, but if you're screening for such things, then just don't take it on. It's not worth it to either one of you. Okay? If you do not believe in termination, then I would only screen for things that can be fixed in utero. If you believe in that. You find a heart defect, they do miraculous surgery on a fetus, absolutely go for it. Why screen for something that's horrendous just to know it and go crazy? You can't prepare. You only screen for things that are major if you're willing to terminate, and then you do. I don't take it personally. There are people in the disabled community who can verbalize, who have expressed problems with parents like me who want to fix their children. And they say, well, you're not accepting them. You want to change them, you're not accepting them. And that I find to be absurd. Okay, I'll do whatever I can to give Pearlsky the best quality of life. And if that means, surgeries to improve her classically accepted surgeries to fix things, if it means medication. Yeah, I want to get rid of her scoliosis. I want to get rid of her seizures. I will do what I can, and it's not because I don't accept who she is. I want her to be as typical as possible because I think her quality of life will be better. Okay. But if somebody doesn't want to take on what I've taken on, I say, don't do it. And if I was involved in a third pregnancy, the wording on that's tough, I don't want another child with this disability. I wouldn't take it on. It's such a deep ingrained family personal choice. I'm pro-choice, okay, absolutely, and I think it's a woman's right. It's tough, sure. Aborting as a form of birth control, that's problematic. Aborting because you only want girls and not boys, or, hair color, yeah, that's problematic, and I get that. Aborting because they're severely disabled and might have a shorter lifespan and will be fully dependent on you, I personally think that's okay.
Why? I'm just curious why you say it's problematic to abort for those reasons.
Why it's problematic to abort because of hair color?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a good answer for that. I don't really have a good answer for that. I don't think anybody does.
Is that a more upsetting reason than, I'm about to start my new job and I just graduated from college and I'm only...
I think if the child will be what we consider within the range of normalcy, okay? Now, what's normal, and you can come up with 50 diseases, mildly autistic, okay? If we knew the kid was mildly autistic, do you abort? Or if we knew the kid, then there's a whole set of disabilities, which I don't consider disabilities just because I'm comparing to mine, okay? Child's going to be, deaf, okay? The absolute disability, there's a very strong deaf community, and deaf people are, okay? And just in my mind, if the child is within the range of that kind of normalcy, I would think it's a mistake to abort them. Is it within the parents' rights? Yeah, I do believe it's within the right. I wouldn't take that away. You either have the right to terminate or not. The decision is yours. I may disagree with your decision and think you're an idiot. You're doing it. But I also think if you know your life is going to be like mine, if your life is really not going to be what is typical, if it's really going to be difficult, then again, it's a family decision. I said it's a family decision. Do I give Pearlsky an extra dose of Benadryl because I need to sleep tonight? I can drug her. I know she'll be safe. I know she'll sleep through the night. Do I do that because I have a major presentation in the morning? Or do I do that because it's been 5 nights and I'm almost passing out? Do I drug her to fix that? That's a family decision. So it's the same kind of thing. Do we bring this other life into the world that's going to change everything? Now, if we really think it's going to change everything because she has green eyes and not brown, is it your right to do it? We have lots of rights to do really stupid things in this country, and we're allowed to do them. And that's unfortunate. But it comes with the rights to do smart things, I guess. If I had to do it all over again, would I? There's a scary question you didn't ask. Okay, the classic question.
Just give a yes or no and I'll end it there.
Yeah, I would. I would.
You're surprising me.
It's all I know. It's all I know. If I didn't have Pearlsky, would my life be different? Oh, absolutely. I'd probably still be married to the professor. No, I'm going to give you one more story. They talk about people that come in, my best friends and the women that, whoever I'm going to end up married to, hopefully soon, I met through Pearlsky. One of the early nannies, drop dead gorgeous, statuesque Russian woman, gorgeous, friendly, wonderful. She's the one that named her Pearlsky, actually. And she had a very jealous husband, and there was never any issues or anything, whatever. And one night, it was Friday, and she had left about 4 in the afternoon. They were going away that weekend. I was alone with Pearlsky. And about 7 o'clock, I was in Pearlsky's room, and she was having seizures. She was probably 6 years old, and she was having seizures like I hadn't seen before. And I was losing it. I was standing over her bed. I didn't know what to do. I had probably given her 3 doses of Valium. I was just personally losing it. And I looked. I don't know why I turned, and in the hallway light was on. But for some reason, no, it was off. I'm sorry, it was off, and Pearlsky's light was on. So I just saw like a silhouette. And it was an angel. It was a wonderful silhouette, and I'm picturing it right now. And it was her. Why she was there, she was supposed to be out of town. Her name's Yelena. I got to use her name. And Yelena's standing at the door, and like I said, just drop dead gorgeous. And she's wearing something more appropriate for going out with her husband than for nannying. And she just walked up to me, and she just gently pushed me aside. She was there with Pearlsky for about 20 minutes, and then she left. I never asked her. I don't know why she came back. I don't know why she was there. She's still one of my closest friends. And you get these moments in life. I mean, that just restored my faith. And you asked me, do I believe there's a God? I mean, Yelena came there at that moment. There was no one else that could have helped me. No one else that would have been able to push me aside. Okay, no one else that would have looked so just gorgeous in the silhouette. And I'm not being a pig or anything because I couldn't see her face. And I just, would I do it all over again for meeting Yelena and some of the other people? I would. It's because what I know. Would I tell somebody else to run? Yeah, run if you have the chance. But if you don't, find Jelena, find some wonderful people, and read my blog. What the hell?